Good evening, everyone. On behalf of Sajdeva Netralaya Jammu, welcome you all. Uh, First, Dr. Mahipal Sajdeva. Although these doctors don't need any introduction, but Dr. Mahipal Sajdeva, he is the president of All India Ophthalmological Society. Dr. Natarajan, he is the immediate past president AIOS, and Dr. Rajkumar Sharma, very senior diabetologist, and Mr. S.K. Sadi, he is the zonal president of Rotary Club of Jammu. Uh, I welcome you all, and uh, this is really very great for the people of Jammu and for public at large that such stalwarts have spared their lot of time for people of Jammu and for the public at large. So first of all, I would like to invite Dr. Mahipal Sajdev so that he, with his vast knowledge about diabetes, he tells us and some public about it.
Thank you very much, Abhishek. Thank you for having me here, Dr. Sajdeva, Abhishek, Mr. Sani, and Natarajan, and Dr. Rajkumar Sharma ji. Pleasure being here to address the people at Jammu. In the first instance, I'll wish to congratulate Sajdeva Netrale for having organized this public webinar, because I think diabetes is one of the leading causes of blindness. Diabetes, as it is, unfortunately, India is becoming the diabetic capital of the world. And the number of people who are getting diabetes, even today in the morning, there was a study that was published, which came out of an international as also from AIMS, which said that we could expect almost half of the population who are overweight to become diabetic as they age. So diabetes is increasing day by day. And one of the major reasons is that the lifestyle has changed significantly, and we are becoming like couch potatoes, or one sitting in front of a screen, television, no exercise, no no walking, no jogging, nothing, etc. So people are also changing their dietary habits, which is full of carbohydrates, going on to junk food, etc. So both a lifestyle change as also the non-exercising, etc., is leading to an increase. And also there are some genetic factors possibly, which is increasing to the incidence of diabetes in India. Now, what happens is that in India, unfortunately, diabetes is not detected early. And when diabetes is not detected early, then under those circumstances, the changes in the other organs of the body also have taken place. Dr. Sharma would be talking about what are the changes and how do you control diabetes, etc. But what is very, very important is that blood pressure, lipid profile, smoking, hyperglycemia, that means an increase in the blood sugar, etc., they all lead to damage in different parts of the body. And one of the part of the body which is very, very important, that these are the eyes. So they also get damaged with the longevity and the poor control of diabetes. So you can have irreversible blindness in US or in developed countries. The leading cause of blindness is not cataract like in India, but it is diabetic retinopathy. That means diabetic retinopathy can lead to irreversible blindness. And what is important is that it needs to be detected early, and it needs to be treated early so that we can stop the progression of diabetic retinopathy. So therefore, it is very, very important, which a lot of people do not know, that blurring of vision or having floaters or flashes, etc., in front of the eye, not able to read, frequent changes of glasses, etc., these are possibly the first symptoms of diabetes having set into the eye. What is very, very important, which I think the speakers will talk in due course of time, is that a regular ophthalmic or an eye examination is a must for us to diagnose diabetes early, diabetic retinopathy or diabetic changes early. And diabetes can affect almost all the parts of the eye. It can also lead to changes in the cornea, in the lid, have an early cataract. It can cause degeneration in the vitreous. But the main part which gets affected is the retina, which is the photosensitive layer of the eye. So I think I would want that the people should be aware. ये जो वेबिनार है, इससे जागरूकता फैलनी चाहिए कि लोगों को, जिनको भी शुगर की बीमारी है या जिनकी कोई फैमिली हिस्ट्री है, they should go and get themselves checked. and also get an eye checkup done, so that if there are any symptoms, signs of diabetic retinopathy or diabetic eye disease, to put it more generally, I think that should be taken care of at the earliest. So congratulations once again for holding this webinar, and it's my pleasure to be with you. With this brief introduction, I will request that we can go ahead with the talks or the formal talks, and then the question answers, whatever are there. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Dr. Mahipal. Uh, so now I would request Dr. Natarajan that if you could tell us about the importance of diabetic screening, especially nowadays.
Thank you, and thank you, Abhishek. And I am happy our president, Dr. Maipal, is here, and I think Dr. Maipal is a dynamic president, and I'm happy we work together. Last year, as a AOS president, I started the diabetic retinopathy screening. I'm glad even this year we are continuing, and he has made me the chairman for diabetic retinopathy screening and awareness committee, where I'll be showing. I'll share the screen. You can see my screen, Abhishek.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Abhishek,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
okay. So my thanks for asking me to speak on importance of retina screening. And this is what we started last year as a AOS president, screening through teleophthalmology to prevent diabetic blindness. Call it AOS Stop Blindness Program. In Hindi, I called it Jot Se Jot Jalao. And we have a movie which we made for public interest, which you will see just now. Are you a diabetic, hypertensive? Do you know you may go blind?
The world will forgive you, but will you forgive yourself? Diabetic blindness is preventable. If you're diabetic, you need a retina checkup.
So this is the most important point we conveyed through public interest movie. I have sent this to actually to Dr. Pramila Gupta to make it part of screening, and requested to have only AOS as
to prevent vision loss.
So this was a public service initiative which was brought out by International Advertising Association and on behalf of All India Ophthalmic Society, and it was partly sponsored by Allergan. So I wish we can screen this all over. Last year, the International Advertising Association screened it in almost 4,000 part in all the TV channels. The reason we have to do this is the burden we have is currently global diabetes is 463 million people, and India like has 77 million people. About 23% of the diabetes of the world is in India. So in 2035, the global diabetes will become 592 million, and India will have 109 million. So you can see this is diabetes in Mumbai. It's exploding, and 25% of the Mumbaikars can have diabetes. So diabetes is a body does not make enough insulin, and body does not use insulin properly. So we have a type 1, which is insulin dependent diabetes, type 2, insulin dependent diabetes. We also have related to pregnancy, drug induced, and so it can damage, as Dr. Maipal said, it can damage all parts of the body, particularly the eye, the heart, the kidney, nerves, teeth, brain. And how does diabetic affect vision? So disease of the blood vessels is in the back of the eye. You can see this is the front of the eye, and that's the back of the eye, which is like the film in the camera. And if you have to see the film in the camera and without the aperture open, you can't see. Same thing is how you see here. And then when you put drops, you dilate the pupil, you'll be able to examine the fundus. And here, this picture shows normal, no diabetic retinopathy in a diabetic eye. And the second picture shows the mild NPDR called the non-proliferative diabetic retinopathy. And then you have small hemorrhages, which is the modified non-proliferative diabetic retinopathy. Then you have microaneurysms, then the IRMA, and the exudates as the severe non-proliferative diabetic retinopathy. And you have new blood vessels of optic nerve called the proliferative diabetic retinopathy. And you have diabetic macular edema. And this is how it can affect. And then later, in spite of that, if you don't treat, they develop traction retinal detachment, pre-retinal hemorrhage, or a vitreous hemorrhage, and then finally lose vision and also develop glaucoma. And then this is late when they have a vitreous hemorrhage, a trickle of blood happens, and you see black spot. Most of the time, they don't have any complaints. So the ways to preserve vision, because the eye which has normal vision in a diabetic does not mean they do not have diabetic retinopathy. And that is the biggest problem for the public, because they say they don't have any complaint. Why should I go to an eye doctor? So I think through this public webinar, we aim at telling anybody who has diabetes, please go to an eye doctor wherever you are, get your eyes examined, and particularly retina examined. So the tips, keep good control of blood sugar, avoid smoking, maintain a healthy diet, regular consultation. And in eye testing, we do visual acuity testing, eye pressure, dilatation, and do ophthalmoscopy. And wherever required, OCT or the optical coherent tomography, angiography of the eye, or you also do OCT angiography. And the treatment is divided into three parts: the laser photocoagulation, which actually helps to maintain intravitreal injections, again for diabetic macular edema, and vitreous surgery for vitreous hemorrhage and traction retinal detachment. Hurdles. So the unawareness is the problem. 45.8% in is the global unawareness. And unawareness eye involvement is about 50%, and more complaints with treatment and insufficient retina specialists. We only have 23,000 eye doctors, and among them, 1,000 are retina specialists. So we made an experiment at Anand Foundation for Twinkling Lights for diabetic retinopathy screening at an urban slum in Mumbai, thanks to Tata Foundation, who gave us few crores. We had the Forest camera, which we took it in the motorbike and sent it took all over slums. And then I also met the CEO of Verily, which is an offload company of the Google. He's an ophthalmologist, Dr. Dimitri Azar. And because the Google has come out with a software using AI in screening for diabetic retinopathy, even though they are published, but it's not still practically available because they don't have an FDA approval. Only the IDX has. Thanks to All India Ophthalmic Society, we have Dr. Ajit Babu, the past president, Dr. Rajiv Raman, Dr. Lalit Verma, the vice president, Dr. Partha Bishwas, the chairman scientific committee, Dr. Subudhi, and Dr. Pramila Gupta, Dr. Rajshekhar, Dr. Dhanashri Ratra, Dr. Radhika, Dr. Rao, and Dr. Rajalakshmi, and Dr. Sheila Jan here. She's part of this webinar. And we also have the Dolores from Smart India, which is a project from UK. So we are coordinating with many people. So I made a philosophy, which I'm happy Dr. Abhishek is carrying out in Jammu, where he's already addressing the village panchayats. We want to select any person from the village and train them to use that smartphone. I don't have any financial interest, but we have that Remedio camera where you use a smart iPhone and you can screen for diabetic retinopathy. So I coined this: anybody can screen for diabetic retinopathy, ABCD. And that's what is a smartphone based artificial intelligence. It's an offline intelligence enabled diabetic retinopathy screening device. It can be handheld or you can keep it in the slit lamp. Thanks to the Remedio, I don't have any financial interest. We have published this in the JAMA ophthalmology. You can see this boy is a school dropout. He can handle the smartphone, and wherever about 45% we can do non-mediatic, that means without dilatation, and 55% may need 1% tropicamide. The NHS has done it in thousands of patients and found no secondary glaucoma due to 1% tropicamide. We are in the process of publication in the Indian Journal of Ophthalmology. Again, it comes as a AOS DR screening and awareness tool. And is an ideal tool for community screening, as it does not require the presence of ophthalmologists at the screening site. And an ophthalmologist can view the images from his or her office to diagnose retinopathy and reports conveyed to them, or use the offline AI as we are using. And thanks to the company Medios in Singapore, which is coordinating with the Remedios, and we are the first one to use in Mumbai in all the. And you can see here, you will see this is a smartphone which is handled by any illiterate or a person who cannot speak English, who knows to handle smartphone, and take a excellent photograph, better than many retina fellows in the beginning. And the idea is they take the right eye, left eye, and you have a data. Now also we are checking for sugar, and then if you have any other parameters, you can enter. And the blue line, he applies the AI software. The blue indicates that picks up the abnormal lesions of the retina, and then it screens for diabetic retinopathy. And it only says two things: either referable diabetic retinopathy, or no need to refer. So this can be done by anybody. And we, thanks to again Dr. Maipal Sajdev, Dr. Samartha, we have signed an MOU with Skill Development Corporation of India, so part of Government of India and the Prime Minister's program. And this year in Gurgaon in February 2020, the Skill Development Corporation, Anusha came. We have a CEO there, and we are doing a pilot study between Prof. Kathy and Alpha Foundation for Children with Life. And it's only with proper screening, regular eye checkups, that we can eradicate diabetic blindness from India. So I have made a program. In the next 5 years, we should screen all the 77 million diabetic, reach 6,47,747 villages. And I hope we can do it through All India Ophthalmic Society, Indian Medical Association, State Ophthalmic Societies, Lions Clubs, Rotary Clubs, Government of India, state governments. So I request through this public webinar, come, let us spread the light of vision, eradicate the darkness of diabetic blindness. And this is what is thanks to Dr. Sheila Jam, who prepared this last year with the AOS as a president. We did it. I hope this can continue, and we can make any type. And probably this was sponsored by Allergan, where you have a poster which can say, if you don't treat the normal eye, can lead to macular edema and then to advanced diabetic retinopathy. So I take this opportunity to thank Dr. Abhishek Sajdev. We have two Sajdev, Maipal Sajdev and Abhishek Sajdev. And I think Abhishek Sajdev's father also is Sajdev, and he is also an ophthalmologist. I see him there. Sir, hello, sir. How are you? So thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
I wish you can light one candle to another, and that's how I think all of us, all ophthalmologists, all optometrists, all eye care professionals, nurses, and as I tell the paramedical staff, or even illiterate through the skill development, will be able to screen for diabetic retinopathy. I think the only my idea is simple. If Dr. Maipal and all IMA and even the Jammu, everybody understands. I think if you detect every diabetic, I think one group of patients who can't pay will be done free. One who can pay charitable can go to the NGO or go to the government hospitals. And one who can pay can go to the private hospital. So that means it's a win-win for the patient. You actually diagnose him early, you make him live longer, and prevent complications. I think diabetes, once it comes, it goes to the grave. So if you control, it's like an animal. But the problem is once it goes uncontrolled or not trained, and I think then you can't do anything, and that's the problem. Then you go for renal transplant, stroke, then ischemic heart disease, blindness. So I go to that side. That's my idea. I wish everybody picks up, and whoever wants to use the AOS, I'm sure Dr. Maipal will give the permission for the AOS to be labeled to be used. Thank you, Maipal. On behalf of All India Ophthalmic Society, you allowed us to do this public webinar. Thank you, Abhishek.
Thank you, sir, for such a vast knowledge, sir. Thank you, Nirvan, sir, very much. Now I will request our senior diabetologist of Jammu, Dr. Rajkumar Sharma, to please say a few words about how to maintain glycemic index or sugar control.
Thank you very much, Abhishek, for inviting me for this public awareness webinar. I'll be very simple, and for layman, I'll be talking about that. But we all know that India today is becoming the capital of diabetes. And if you go by the numbers, we are going to overtake China very soon in the total number. And with at the present, we have more than 7 crore people suffering from diabetes. So if you virtually see, every fourth or fifth individual above the age of 40 is suffering from diabetes. And we all know the lifestyle diseases can have effect on different organs, and eye being one, which has been covered by Dr. Natarajan. And I'll be taking a little bit of the other areas. It is not only the eye, but visually the eye is more important, but other organs such as kidney, heart, and then your neuropathy, and then finally, if you have the problems in the neuropathy, you can get the amputation. So it is one of the leading causes of amputations as well, not only the blindness. So it is very important to cover the blood sugar as far as possible, so that we don't get into the loss of any organ or the effect on any organ. So on one thing which I want to highlight is that India has a one problem, that we all in the Southeast Asia are more prone to diabetes because of our genetic backgrounds. Not going into details of that. But unfortunately, what is happening around is, when the West people are going to cover the sugar or diabetes, they are extending the age of onset by about 10 years. So from 45, they are going towards the 55. Unfortunately, it is becoming earlier in our country. It is now we are getting more and more people around 35 to 45. So if you see the patient number of patients you are coming to your clinic, more people are coming between 35 to 40 years. So all those people are ultimately in the long run have problems of the diabetic complications. So I tell everyone that from the very zero day, it is your endeavor to have a euglycemia or a normal blood sugar. You have to achieve diabetes under and keep the diabetes under control to prevent the complications. Otherwise, in the long run, after 10 to 15 years, depending upon your control, you will have the end effect on the different organs, whether it is kidney, whether it's heart, or whether it is the limbs, or whether it is the blood vessels. So we have to go for a regular monitoring of the blood sugar. That is the most important thing which we have to highlight into the general public. People are not aware of the importance of monitoring. So if you go for regular monitoring, unless you sit in the exams, how many numbers you are getting in the paper, you will never know. So yeah, people don't care for the tests. I have seen many times people coming after 4 to 5 years and saying that, well, we have been taking your medicine which you have prescribed, and we were doing very well. And I have just come to check up because I was not feeling well for last few years, few months now. So that this is the type of people psyche we have in India, and especially in our part of the country. So we have to emphasize to everyone that regular medical checkup, whether it is eye, whether it's the kidneys, whether it is the heart, whether it is the other areas, we have to go. And annual regular medical checkup for the eyes, and as well as the blood tests for the kidneys and the lipids, as well as the hypertension. So another very important thing which comes along with the diabetes is the hypertension. We know that about 50 to 60% of the people in the long term have association with the diabetes as well as the hypertension. And when these two things come together, they will have a side effect on the kidneys as well. So many of people are going to have nephropathy, and we see today a lot of problems with the dialysis and other things, and there is so much burden on the basic hospitals as well as the society, that there is a financial crunch, as well as they are losing a lot of money on the management of diabetes. It is not the diabetes itself, it is the complications of diabetes which are going to create problems in the longer run, and will have an effect on the society as well as on the financial government setup. And government setup will not be able to cater to the all these problems, and will, once you go to the private sector, there's a lot of money involved, and many of the poor people will not be able to manage themselves with that much of money. So it is better to prevent than to really go for the state of tertiary care or the involvement in the we have to go for the management of the complications. So how we can manage the blood sugar to keep it in the normal range? That is very, very important. And we have the four cornerstones. I tell everyone it is the diet, it is the exercise, it is the meditation, it is the medication as well as the insulin. And of course, preventing the complication, you have to avoid smoking at all. No smoking at all should be there. So by consuming proper amount of diet or a proper balanced diet with 55% of the carbohydrates and 25% of the proteins and rest being the fats, you can manage the diet. You have to have an optimal control of the diet and also have the optimal blood pressure. You have to have an optimal weight. Another very important cause of diabetes is the obesity. So once you have the obesity, your body metabolism is not under control, is managed by the other things, and we have a metabolic syndrome like picture where there is a insulin, we have a DT, or what we call as the insulin resistance occurs, and the amount of insulin which we have manufacturing in our body is not sufficient, and we really end up with type 2 type of the diabetes. So very important thing is to control the diet as well as go for a regular exercise, outdoor exercise, and of course yoga if it is additive to the basic exercise, whether you go for aerobic exercises, whether you go for walking, whether you go for the games or cycling, whatever you do, you have to spend at least 1 hour in the gym or outdoor for the exercise. That is very, very important. And of course, medication, as far as medications are concerned, I personally feel most of the time people take it very lightly. Any patient, if he's prescribed one medicine by a doctor, he has made it a point that he gives the medicine according to the problem of the patient, and it is a tailor-made medication is given. But many a times what is happening in our part of the country is that people adhere to the medication given to their friends, their relations. They say, well, this is a cheaper medicine or this is giving better control in him. So they shift medicine from here to the other sides. This is very common in our part of country. I always advocate people to avoid this because the doctor has given you the medication which is tailor-made for you, and whether it's the tablet, one tablet or the one salt or the other salt, at the moment we have a lot of salts which are having the effect on the diabetes. So shifting from one salt to the other, seeing that this is all are the anti-diabetic or they have the effect on the sugar, is not the proper thing to do. And these things lead out to more problems than good. And another very important thing which I want to highlight for the general public is that a lot of people indulge into magical cure. Everybody sees that why go to doctor or why spend money on tests and other things? Why not take some magical cure or some desi dwai or some fanda or whatever they want to go to somebody else, the other type of indigenous medicines. So they end up mostly with the complications. So that thing is to be avoided. And very other very important thing is a lot of people have a very bad, you can say, feeling about the insulin. As far as medicines is concerned, insulin is still the best thing to treat the diabetes. For treating diabetes, insulin is the best. People try to avoid medicines and avoid insulin hardly more. And many a times it is the part of inertia on both doctor as well as on the patient. Patient is scared of the injection. Doctor is afraid of the hypoglycemia, low sugars. So he tries to avoid the insulin. So once you have a complication state or when your body needs insulin, it has not to be deferred. And insulin has to be started at the priority whenever you are not getting a proper diabetic control. So all the armamentarium which you have has to be used to ultimately achieve a normal glycemia or a normal blood sugar. As if you achieve a normal glycemia, so you will have less of chances of complications, and you are going to be have a normal lifespan as well as the life without complications. Another very important thing is self-monitoring. With the technology taking up, and we have glucometers available at a very lower cost of around 1,000 rupees, you get a glucometer. And if you go on regular monitoring of the blood sugar, that your sugar is under control or not under control, and at what time of the day, because you can monitor blood sugar morning, afternoon, even anytime with your glucometer. But if you have to go only in the morning, so we have to have a glycemia for last all the 24 hours, not that only for the certain time in the morning or after the food which we do as a postprandial blood sugar. We have to really control blood sugar in the 24 hours control, which can be achieved by only proper diet, exercise, as well as the medication, whether it's the tablets, whether insulin, as well as the precautions by taking a proper diet, proper food, proper fruits, and as well as avoiding the smoking. So if you all these things are to be properly taken, many a times we'll be able to manage the blood sugar, and patient has to he has to be in touch with the doctor and not to change medicine of its own. If you do this, I think we'll be able to manage the blood glycemia, or we'll be able to control the blood sugar and avoid a lot of the burden on the society by avoiding the heart attacks, chronic renal failure leading on to the dialysis, and involvement of the limbs or diabetic foot to avoid the amputations. So, and of course, it has been talked about the retinopathy, which is another very important factor in the uncontrolled diabetes. And if we do diabetics control proper glycemia, we'll be able to achieve glycemia and avoid the different complications and live a normal life. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rajkumar sir, for covering the diabetologist part of the webinar. Thank you very much. So now I don't want to miss the opportunity. I'll just take 5 minutes for a very small presentation from our side. It'll just take 5 minutes. So diabetes and your eyes. In 2020, according to the International Diabetes Federation, 463 million people have diabetes in the world, and the prevalence of diabetes in population is 8.9%. So the diabetic eye disease, the patient will have diabetic retinopathy, cataract, or glaucoma in the later stages. So what are the modifiable risk factors? The high blood pressure, high body weight, high cholesterol, physical inactivity. Non-modifiable risk factors like history of gestational diabetes, family history of diabetes, race, and age over 45 years. Patient will have symptoms of blurred vision, floaters, flashes of light, and double vision. So what a patient will require a comprehensive eye examination, which will include a vision, eye pressure, slit lamp, dilated retinal examination, and fundus photograph. You will see your doctor doing something like this on a slit lamp. This is how a normal retina looks like. This is a picture of a diabetic retina. So this is a fundus photograph which you will find in your doctor's clinic. This is another OCT machine which is very relevant these days. This is a diabetic macular edema picture. So keep your health on track. Take your medication, reach and maintain healthy weight, add physical activity daily, control blood pressure and cholesterol, and kick the smoking habit. This is another very question which is asked very often is, will I get blind if I have diabetes? So the longer you have diabetes, if you have uncontrolled diabetes, and if you are diagnosed late, all these go in favor of worse prognosis. So this is how a frequency of examination should be. In summary, I would like to say the prevention is the key. See your ophthalmologist regularly and reduce the risk factors. So this will be regular camps. We have diabetic retinopathy camps. This is because of Rotary Club. We could have a health diabetic walk with them. And these are some plays we organized in the city of Jammu for diabetic retinopathy awareness. And people of Jammu participated very enthusiastically in a signature campaign. And on Yoga Day, like yoga is becoming very famous these days. On Yoga Day, we promoted eye health awareness, especially through yoga. and this is a very famous personality from Jammu. So he wore a black like opaque spectacles, and he experienced how it looks, how it feels in fact to if someone goes blind. He's a very famous theatre personality from Jammu. With the Rotary, we could organize few press conferences for public awareness, and few radio interviews could also be organized. Thank you. Thank you. And so I think Mr. Sani and Mr. Dr. Natarajan here. So now I will request Dr. Mr. Ravi Sharma. He represents Rotary Club. So if you have few questions, because Mr. Sani has to leave because of some unstable internet. So Mr. Ravi, could you please unmute yourself?
Thank you, Dr. Abhishek.
Yes, yes.
I've received 2-3 questions from Mr. Sani. He is asking that why the diabetes is spreading among children. What is the main reason for that? And what can be a remedy of that, and how we can save them from this?
May I request the seniors to address the question, please?
I have not. What is the question? Hello.
Hello.
Yes.
Yeah, my question was that why this diabetes is spreading in children, and what can be remedy? How we can save them from this disease?
Yes.
What is the main cause of? Yeah.
Well, your question is pertinent. I will give you two things. One is a different type of diabetes, which is in children, which is because of the infection in the area, because of or it is unknown, which is the cause beta cells, and there is less production of the insulin, and such children definitely require only insulin as a therapy. That is one part, which is in the age group of below 10 or something like that. But what is happening around now in our part of the country is that we are getting type 2, that is the older type 2 type of diabetes in the younger age group, especially once you have your parents. Once your parents are diabetic, whether mother, father, anybody is diabetic, and the child is overweight or obese. If they have a lot of obesity, the child can also get type 2 diabetes, which can be cured by decreasing the weight. So unfortunately, what is happening around in our part of the country, because of the affluence, no fast food is very easily available, coca culture is available, so we are going for those things, and we are not going, and we are adhering to the video games rather than the outdoor games, and we are spending a lot of time in the sedentary habits, and that's why gaining the weight, your insulin resistance comes up, and you can get diabetes in the younger age group. And by reducing the weight, or you are keeping the weight normal and going for regular exercise from the childhood, we can avoid the incidence of diabetes, which is coming up very fast in our part of the country. So I am doing, at least on the every World Diabetes Day comes on 14 November. I am holding a painting competition of the children from different schools, and give them the different media that if you don't achieve your body weight normal, you are going to get diabetes. If you take junk food, that means fast food kills fast. So something like that. And insulin is a true friend indeed. So what are the myths in our part of the country? That we don't take insulin, we avoid insulin, we don't take proper diet. So all those, I go with those slogans, and people paint on those slogans. So this is an annual event. This year it could not be held because of the COVID. Otherwise, I am doing it for the last 25 years. So this
Yeah.
is very, very important. Awareness is from the very start. The children have to be groomed that this is the problem they are going to face if they are not going to control their weight and don't go for good habits rather than going for the coca culture as well as the fast food.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. So, so on my side, I would like to thank all the seniors, especially Dr. Mahipal, Dr. Natarajan, and Dr. Rajkumar. Like this is such a big moral booster for, especially for me, like such seniors in such a short span of time they could come for the webinar. So now I would like Dr. Sanjay to say a vote of thanks for them.
And okay, before that, ask any comments from Dr. Sheila John?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Sorry, sir. Yes, sir. Dr. Sheila, I would like if you could also say a few words.
Dr. Sheila John is a teleophthalmology specialist, one of the authorities in India and
Yes, sir.
also in the world. So I think she's a Dr. Sheila. You have to unmute. I don't know, but my internet is not stable.
Ma'am, you have to, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
We're doing a very good diabetic retinopathy program. Outreach program is there. We have mobile vans which go into the villages and examine the patients. But for the past 3-4 months, we have not had camps because of the government initiative. Other than that, regular programs have been had. We have publications.
Thank you, and thank you. So now a vote of thanks by Dr. Sanjay.
I would, on behalf of Sachdeva Netrale and I would say the public of Jammu, I would like to thank the for sparing their valuable time in conducting the webinar, giving elaborate knowledge to all of us and to the public. I have a small humble request for Dr. Natarajan, Dr. Maipal, that since they are involved in a bigger way in policy making for diabetic screening and awareness programs, if they can contribute a little bit of their share and time and energy in involving the tier 2 and tier 3 cities a little more. This is my humble request, sir.
We'll look into that and we'll surely do that.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. And thank you very much for everything.
Thank you.
So with
Thank
this,
you.
thank you so much. I'd like to conclude.